don't. Oh, it's already. Be professional.
Sorry.
Jeez.
Somebody get some WD-40 for that door.
Okay. Let's see if we got set. Oh. Don't rush it. I'm ready. Camera one. Probably. Oh,
Everyone, welcome to Eugene and Dylan's Guitar Show. I'm Eugene Edwards over here. It's Dylan Caligiuri right over there to my left. And we're going to a little more March Mad Licks again, which was just something that Dylan came up with it last week at the last second because he just needed some sort of title to put on this. And I'm running with it literally because that's all I know how to do.
Right.
Now, I say
you're an interpreter. You just interpret sort of what is.
I'm not a reporter. I'm a repeater. Hello to Jim from Long Island. I was taught how to pronounce that a long time. And you don't say goodbye. You say be well.
Wow.
That's right. Also, hello Dave out there in Ontario, New York. And of course, the real estate magnate himself, Scott. He's always at the Atlanta airport.
Wouldn't it be amazing if Scott was like Mr. Big from Wayne's World?
Oh, that's right. Like you know what? If you could sell this show, Scott, but have at it, buddy.
Like if you show up, and
that'd be wonderful. Yeah. By the way, what was with the cat? That guy, who was that?
I know.
I think he was supposed to look like Tommy Mottola or like a very specific record industry person,
right?
But he looked like he came from a completely different movie.
We
got like Rob Lowe, and but he it looked like they. Like it was one of the producers was promised like, well, he gave a lot of money. Okay, you can get a walk-on part.
Right.
Look back at that scene.
Yeah, maybe he was an investor.
Awkward. I think so.
Maybe he really was the Mr. Big to the show.
Greg is saying hello from the Nebraska blizzard. You be careful out there.
Wow, Greg.
We all know something about nature and what it does to where we live. And so everybody, I don't know where you live. May you all be safe. Hello, Marilee. Hello, Eileen from Western Mass.
Eileen, hey there.
And we got Bruce from Sarasota, Florida, and Jim is saying hi. This is so lovely. Look how friendly the people are.
It's very cordial.
It's very cordial. I like that. Manners count.
Decadence.
Now, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You can answer this in any way you want, any terms.
Okay.
What's a guitar lick?
Oh, wow.
When we say a lick, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So lick, run, riff.
Aha.
I think these are all the same.
I agree.
Same term, right? So, go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking. So then, it's okay. So, a lick.
Can I give you like a textbook definition, and then
actually that'd be great.
Pontificate. So, I think it's a melodic fragment that can be built of single note melodies or dyads, and even potentially multiple notes, but characteristically, it's built of single note melodies that it has some sort of motif to it. So some sort of antecedent and consequent phrase. So there's the scholastic nightmare of
I'm distracted by something Jim's saying now. Yes, I say Long Island, and yes, people make fun of me to my face.
Long Island.
That was it. So now, because to me, I'm thinking now it's a guitar lick. To me, seems like it's a musical phrase,
right? That
usually has guitar-centric things about it.
Sure.
So there are sax riffs that we've turned into guitar licks. That double
Yeah,
stop
right,
thing.
right,
where
right.
you
Yeah.
That starts as that's us imitating saxophones, but on guitar.
Sure.
And on and on. Or there's those little those articulations that are guitar centric.
Yeah, well, those kind of
Hammer-ons,
came
pull-offs.
later, right? So
They come later.
because for the most part, guitar was replacing like a horn band.
Usually, yeah, because of the war.
Yeah, and so and also you could just pay less people
Oh, yeah.
and have one person with a guitar there. But later on, we had our own kind of lick-tastic things that we did, but most of our stuff was from pedal steels or pianos, like when you're
Fiddles,
in West Montgomery,
where we did our double stops.
saxophones.
Now, so do you? Now, I talked quite a bit last week, and I kind of talked a lot about my Mike Campbell's lick and the riff from Breakdown. To me, it's like all licks are riffs, but not all riffs are licks. Maybe is what I'm thinking. It's like chinos and khakis.
Licks are riffs,
I'm not sure.
but not all riffs
We'll work
are
this one
licks.
out later.
Huh.
So anyway, yeah, repeating a bunch of notes that sound good together. That could be a lick.
Well,
So
but it might not have any repetition in it. is
talk
the
to
one
me
thing
when
I'd
you
say.
were first playing guitar. What were some licks that mattered to you? Do you remember some of the first
Yeah.
licks where you thought, "I'm doing it, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm making music on a
I
guitar."
think this one.
Oh,
I think that was a big one. Yeah.
That's not an easy lick.
No, well, but it actually fits with Rory's definition, right? So we have
It is, yeah.
a phrase, and this is really important that people start to listen to phraseology. So you have that's the phrase, right? And then it just has a different starting note, and then another starting note, and then an antecedent phrase.
Because
at
he's
the
got to
end.
wrap it up somehow.
So I think stuff like that was a big one. Another big one would have been, let's see, I'm a young kid, right?
Sure.
So like
Yeah,
Beat It would have been big. The November Rain solo.
second half, yeah.
Yeah. Hotel California stuff.
Okay.
Probably. So like radio stuff.
Yeah.
Even Sweet Home Alabama would have probably been a big one to me back then. But
Okay.
I can't help but mention because I was about 9 when that came out, and I rode my bike to Warehouse and bought it on tape. And remember, tapes used to come in a huge box.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the guys in Spinal Tap explained that because I think Martha Quinn on MTV was like, "Okay, notice your new," because it's in a very big. This is a lot of. I mean, is this kind of wasteful? Like, just environment wise, is it? No, it's actually more to recycle.
Yeah.
I don't know what can be more because some people go to the recycling center and they got nothing to recycle, but now we've given them more, so it's extra environmental.
Right.
I thought that was pretty smart.
I think
Yeah,
it's so they could stand up where albums were at.
that's exactly
Yeah,
what it was. They had not fixed the racks yet. Now, guys, Silent Lucidity.
Silent Lucidity.
John Waby says.
I don't remember it.
It's so funny. My old radio training is to not use last names when I'm looking at it, but they've put their own last names there.
Oh.
And I still catch myself. Wait, so Jimmy Page, the riff master.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's a lot of calls for Nikki. We have to call Nikki. Have her come on the
Where's
couch.
it? Yeah, we'll get Nikki on
We'll
here.
get
Sure,
Nikki,
why
yeah.
not? Great.
Jimmy Page, riff master. Here's something about Page's riffs I've noticed. I'm not the only one who've noticed, by the way, but there's a lot of that's a lot of different licks and riffs, obviously, but there's always this call and response nature of a lot of his licks. So even the let's see. So there's that, and then there's this second half, the response. Call. By the way,
Antecedent consequent.
little trick here. If you, it's really cool when Dylan played it with me because it's much more like the record. But also, there's this thing where what he's doing was he's fretting the 5th fret A and bending it slightly sharp and hitting the open D at the same time, so he gets a little dissonance.
Yeah.
He gets a little, and it just makes it sound like it's more guitars.
Right,
it's a
right.
really, really smart little
It's a
trick
vibe
there.
thing.
It's a vibe.
Very LA.
So yeah, and so Zeppelin's built on so many riffs, and then not to mention the fact that the drummer is also usually Bonham's usually responding with his own riffs on his instrument. So you've got this really riff heavy, and John Paul Jones, especially on the earlier records, the first two in particular, first four, now I think about it. A lot of the records, Jonesy is doubling it on a P bass. Whatever Page is doing, John Paul Jones is doing it on a Fender bass at the same time, which really thickens up the mix, and it's really, really hip. So Keith riff hards, as Mary Lee says, riff hards. Some people call Keith Richards the human riff. Like just everything about him is a guitar lick.
The Keith Richards,
the multiple scarves, all the earrings, the way he walks. I mean, he's like a human guitar riff.
Yeah,
and obviously he has the classic ones like Satisfaction. And
I think Honky Tonk Woman is probably one of the better guitar riffs ever.
Well, and that's the first time that he has that open G tuning.
This is a challenge to play this song as a cover band because I'm not bringing. We talked about it at Second Guitars last week. So
yep. At this point, if you handed me a guitar with the low E string removed and open to the G, I would have a hard time, even though it's easier to play Honky Tonk Woman in the open G.
I don't think I'd be able to do it.
I'd be kind of lost. Because we just know how to play it in standard tuning.
Yeah.
For so long,
because it's a sort of an evolutionary type of Darwinistic thing, survival of the fittest. So
add those open strings, Eugene. There you go. Exactly. Still no stream. But what? Eileen?
Still no stream.
Yeah, I think Eileen might be having.
Oh, Eileen, maybe it's your internet.
Sorry, Eileen. But we are here. Well, I guess she wouldn't know if I said that. Well, that's kind of existential, isn't it? By the way, with Keith going to that open G tuning. The Stones riffs, pretty much from Honky Tonk Women to let's start me up-ish, but everything's very one subdominant, tonic subdominant tonic. So the 1-4-1 is because in that tuning, that's pretty much what he's left to do. So what's really hip though is that he doesn't stay diatonic
on Honky Tonk Woman.
No, I'm saying like let's say Give Me Shelter.
Oh, Give Me Shelter.
Even more, where he's got it. Where we start.
Where are you gonna do that at? I think that's the right key.
G.
Yeah. There you go.
Whatever. He kind of moves to the flat 7, then the flat 6. He's kind of. C to flat 7 to B flat. Then to the flat 6 of it. Yeah, he's pretty much just got that one position there. Right.
And that's kind of how that works because you have a guitar in standard.
We talk. Yeah, this is kind of a bit when we carry
Ron
on
was
from
in
the
standard
slide
the whole
talk.
time, right?
Yeah, Ron
most songs.
Ron and Mick Taylor would stay in standard.
Yeah, so you have a guitar in standard, and then he's just sort of riding over the top, genuinely like a pedal steel in that sense, I guess, but not really playing pedal steel.
He's not. Yeah, he's not playing accidentals.
If they're so it's really.
So guys, so what are some of the first licks that you guys learn? Oh, that you guys learn.
Is that the right key?
E, key of E. There you go. And here's the thing about that lick, which is, one of those, like Dwight has so many great licks in just open position, just first position. There's still lots of licks there, right? And that one is to get the right time notice. It's a strat in the middle pickup. So I think we tend to assume it's a telly bridge position, really, really twangy. It's actually a strat in the middle pickup. It's got a little more of a proper rock tone. But that one too I think of that one as a call and response. That's the call. The response is.
Oh, is it? Is it that?
No, I'm sorry. I misread. Also, it reminds me, and then I think to play this one, to keep it, I think the heart of it is how consistent it is.
It's like metronomic.
Yes.
Listen to the beginning of that song.
So it reminds me of...
It's really straight,
I've talked about this before on the show, too, where it reminds me of the lick from Lucille by Little Richard.
Oh, okay.
Where you establish the downbeat every measure. It's like a James Brown funk thing in a way.
Yeah.
Where you da da da
Keep
da
giving
da
one
da
all the
da
time.
da da da.
Yeah.
As long, and you go back to when you drop hard on da 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 da, and that's what gives it this almost menacing, consistent, relentless drive.
Yeah, I think also people underestimate how hard it is to do the same thing the same way every time. It's surprisingly hard. I don't know if you ever heard of a guy named Nate Wood from Knee Body. He's a jazz drummer, but he's played in a lot of capacities, and he's world renowned drummer. And he's talking about, you'd be surprised how hard it is. All the jazz kids want to play the hardest thing they can. It's really hard to just play the same thing over and over again, really, really consistently. Believe it or not, because your attention fades is the first thing for most people. And if it's not your attention, then it's like your attack changes, or
so much.
Like there's just you start paying attention to the nuance of what you're doing, and then you find this whole second valley of difficulty.
Yeah.
There. But when I think of that song, I think of something going.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Frankly, yeah. Had it been like a more of like a mid '80s rock thing, it probably would have had
It's
that.
really close to.
In a way. Yeah, you kind of hear 1 flat 7/4, but none of the instruments will play that. Dwight's he's strumming an open E major over
it's just implied.
And Skip Edwards on the Hammond, which apparently he tells me that was his like one pass. He just
really?
He just played that over. It was like good enough. But yeah, he's really just sticking to E blues moves, and so he's never really fun. You will hear the B3. You'll hear I think you do hear a flat 7/4 move in the right hand of the organ here and there, but he's doing that in the B3, but he's really just sort of playing around Dwight's vocal whole lot.
Right.
Day Tripper is a good call. That's another, again, these E riffs are huge. It's funny. These are like, that one feels like it's a cousin to Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison, but not quite.
Well, let's talk about that riff for a second, because that's a really good one to bring up. So that riff is this part of their career where they started screwing with contrary motion in their lines. So if you hear if you play that line, I can play, something like that.
So the melody's moving down.
Yeah. And then, so the line is going up, and the melody's going down. You have this kind of like effect, which is called contrary motion. And that's one of the reasons that lick sounds, when it goes from that to, which is the same thing in, if you think about it.
Yeah, use the 2 major.
And so when it goes to that, it's such a contrast when it goes back to the riff. But I think that's totally Pretty Woman adjacent in that sense. Yeah.
So you mentioned, and that's like a single note riff.
Yeah.
Fast as You is a single note riff. Smoke on the Water.
Yeah. So most people play Smoke on the Water wrong.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean,
I do probably.
Like the average person who's just running around playing it at a music store, you hear it wrong. But it's a dyad riff, right? So
meaning 2 notes at the same time.
And I think he's actually playing these 2 notes here.
Probably.
Because you can hear a little bit of tuning variation between.
So probably not the open strings.
And yeah, I don't hear open strings like ringing out.
Right.
But it's weird. I bet Richie Blackmore, that's probably his least favorite.
He's like, can I play something from the Rainbow period here?
Richie Blackmore was a total shredder, of the earliest shredder in terms of guitar, at least.
True. True. Michael Storm says his first lick was The Rover by Led Zeppelin. I'm curious, Michael, how far into that? Because right,
that's an interesting one to have your first lick at. That's I think my first Led Zeppelin lick, surprising, was
The Ocean. Perfect fourths on Smoke on the Water. Very good.
And then
yeah, I do it all in the first position.
You do it there, yeah.
Well, that was probably my first odd meter riff.
Yeah.
Is Money by Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
I I just played the riff because it's so catchy, and I didn't realize I'm playing in 7/4.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about odd meter, that if it's really melodic, then Michael, you learn the whole song, the Rover. That's very impressive. That's a whole musical. That's a music education in itself, because there's minor sevenths and all sorts of crazy phrasing, and that's really, really, really.
So here's some tips for working on 7/4. Because if you work on 7/4, when you go back to work on 4/4, you're like, this is lame. This is what children do.
Yeah.
So if you let's say you just take these two chords, like you take E and D. So you're like, there's two ways that 7/4 is generally presented to you. It's in 4/3 or 3/4, because it's 4 and a group of 3, or a group of 3 and a group of 4. So a group of 4 is going to be 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1, or 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 3, versus 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. So the first one is the really common one, and if you practice with your patterns, if you're practicing like, it'll really help you get like your upstroking down, because every other stroke is going to end up being an upstroke. Every other grouping. So if you have 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, that whole second group of 7 was all upstrokes. 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Same thing with 5. 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. Right. So when you go to, it'll feel really comfortable.
That feels like a group of 3 and then 2.
Yeah.
1 2 3 1 2.
So
1 2
5
3.
would be,
so it feels waltzy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you flip it, if it's
the Brubeck.
1 2 1 2 3 1. It doesn't feel waltzy anymore. It feels
not at all.
Incongruent. It feels so. Notice what the pattern was like. The pattern is that the longer phrase being at the front end of the odd meter feels more comfortable to us than the shorter phrase.
The first one is the really common one when yes.
Yeah.
How many are there even?
Oh gosh.
I think to begin with, Eric, I think what Dylan's saying is right. Start with a group of 3 followed by 4, but most likely group of 4 followed by 3. I think that's really usually how a lot of 7/4 is felt.
And I would like, short of us doing Tool songs or something like that, right? So I would say take 2 chords, like Tequila is a great example, but just divide them up and really focus more on this than the chord part. So if you're going 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2, sorry, 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2, so that's 7. So if you count 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 and then if you add another chord, sorry, 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. Does that make sense?
That's when, if I have too much tequila, that's how my 4/4 sounds. Had fun learning the riff to "Sunshine of Your Love," says Jim K. when first starting out. That's a good one because you're mostly in a minor pentatonic position, but then you move out of that box a little bit, which is pretty healthy. And also you learn how, if you really kind of get into that riff, you kind of learn a little bit of a nice dynamic. Clapton really strikes. He really like attacks that.
Yeah.
Not every time, but when he, I think it's in every other thing. However, but also a really, really good. And Jack Bruce, the bass player, wrote that riff.
You could tell it's very Rage Against the Machine.
He went to see Hendrix and thought, "Wow, we need to write a Hendrix song."
Yeah.
So call and response. Here we go again. The variation is he plays that doo doo doo. He plays it an octave up the next time around.
Yeah.
And then and then you just kind of he didn't play it over the 4 chord. I think it just do they? No, I can't remember Sunshine.
I can't remember either. Wait,
it's been so long.
It's been a long time since I've played that.
They just don't play that one often enough on classic rock radio.
We used to play that all the time, actually, back in the day.
Oh yeah, it's a great riff. Yeah, and the drummer can really get going. You know, it's funny about this odd meter thing. I was hanging out with my daughter and a couple of her friends this past weekend, and one of her buddies, Andre, he's about 16 or 17. He's a junior in high school, but he plays drums, and he's in his Neil Rush and Tool.
Wow.
Like he's all about that right
dude.
now. It's lots of odd meter in this. This kid is living odd meter
How
right
odd
now.
do you? I feel odd right now. Yeah.
And in fact, I want to hook him up with you because he wants to apply to the Thornton School of Pop.
Oh, okay.
And I said, and he was asking me about this. I said, well, once we get into like music academia,
Yeah. Get your wallet out.
but it's funny because, you know, in this kid's case, he will, I'm assuming he's going to play drums for, you know, the majority of his adulthood as well.
Right.
Because he's very serious about this stuff. But he will always be in a world of odd meter.
Yeah.
Even if he's playing straight 4/4. And that's the thing we're going to have to talk to. Like, okay, if you want to get a national gig, you probably won't be playing a whole lot of odd meter.
It's like the normal kid thing,
it's
right?
good to know. No, we all have to go through.
Yeah.
I remember learning YYZ.
Yeah.
And just feeling that. Now
Yes,
that one,
yes is badass. By the
that
way.
one I knew
Yeah.
was an odd meter, unlike Money.
Right. Money was it's so well done. You don't even know it's an odd meter. Yeah.
But to get through that, things like, oh, whoa, this is not necessarily swinging the way Money does.
Well, and you have to become alert to
Yeah.
counting in a way that you're not if you're just playing rock and roll all the time, because you're not thinking about beats necessarily unless you're a drummer.
Michael has a great tool. Is there an easy riff or lick from these guys? Do they have?
I think we did that show. That one.
Well, Eric is saying Schism's kind of.
That might be harder.
Eric, I almost dropped that nerdy. Sorry, but that YYZ it's Morse code for the airport there. It's is it Ontario?
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
No, that's where. By the way, just for example, you can get inspiration anywhere.
Yeah.
Let that be a great lesson. You know, if you happen to know Morse, like the Morse code to the airport code to your local airport, there's a riff there. Sure, why not?
Sure.
You know, the thing about, I may have mentioned this before on an episode, but the thing about Day Tripper by the Beatles, also at that time, they wanted to write an up-tempo soul tune, very Otis Redding. And Otis I think he did eventually cover it. But they were trying to write like an Otis Redding soul tune. Now, being good students of records, the Beatles, they noticed that a lot of Otis Redding songs don't have any minor chords. They state, so what they didn't know is Steve Cropper had a Telecaster that was tuned to an open E, and that was his writing guitar. So even if an Otis Redding song goes to the 6 or the 3,
They're still major,
they're
baby.
still major. So the Beatles realized this. So that's why so first the verse is just the 1 chord, then the 4 chord, back to the 1 chord. It's like a blues.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the 5 like a normal blues, they go to the 2 major. Now to the 4 chord, 3 major, and then 6 major to find out.
Which is that's where it
Then
gets,
the 5 major. Find out. So all the chords are major in Day Tripper because of Otis Redding. Well, actually, Steve Cropper, who wrote a lot of those songs.
Really?
Yep. So again,
Yeah.
inspiration
I didn't know that.
anywhere, right? Let's see. Metallica has a lot of riffs.
Yeah, Metallica is a riff, really, if you think about it. Like the whole thing is a long riff, right? Like every song, pretty much all that era of rock is Led Zeppelin, like kind of driven, right? So it's like Led Zeppelin drives it, and Black Sabbath, and those
we
are
had
all
Tony
riff
Iommi
bands.
mentioned.
So I don't think there's a song. There's very few songs by Metallica that aren't literal riffs.
I think that's. I don't know. I'm sure they've spoken about it, but I think their songwriting process is probably here's some riffs. Okay,
Here's a
here
riff.
we go.
Yeah. Like the Black Album where they had that really high production quality that was really
Yeah, you talked on a previous episode about that, about the spread of things and how things were panned.
There's 100 guitars. I mean, that's where things started to get maybe not quite as riff oriented all the time, but only because there was so much overlaying. You Kill Them All, you go all the way back, it's all riffs. And some of those riffs were actually quite long. And go and grab a book for And Justice for All or for Kill 'Em All, and you'll see there's like
how many measures long there
yeah,
are?
there's like bars of one, and like they were not thinking in congruent terms by any stretch. So that's part of what made it really good, was it was totally like innate and organic in that sense. You know what I mean? I think, but at the same time, try to play some of the songs from Kill 'Em All. He's playing so fast, you guys. It's really, really, really fast.
Yeah. I
I had to teach a solo from that on Fender Play, and you have to do them note for note.
we
It was the hardest
they
one
gave
I ever did.
You got all the hard ones.
Oh my God. I was like, I think I might lose some hair during this.
Well, you know what? I remember.
It was just the speed of it, really.
I was filming probably a promotion for something for Fender, and I was in the building. And you were in the other studio, and you were doing
panicking.
The play along. One of those play alongs where you don't see our faces.
You don't see. Yeah, right.
It's just the body. You have to play it all the way through while the tab's running through. You guys remember? They're probably still up there. So Dylan was given another brick in the wall.
Probably
solo.
the hardest one I ever did, by the way.
And you said that was the hardest.
I think that was the hardest one I ever did.
No, here's the thing.
There's all the intimations in it.
Yes. So we're like, okay, but we can sing it. It's like how hard it doesn't. There's not. There's just. It's like okay, but it's
the
not. It's not
bizarre.
A speed metal one. There's no odd meter. It's mostly just like a D minor blues. What are you whining about? Yeah. There's because we were trying to get every articulation right.
You're trying to get their intimations right. And we were really excited at this time to be able to do these because it was like the highest sort of caliber of content that we had been able to shoot for Fender Play. And so, and it was no frills, just tab below us. We're playing.
It really was sold to us
as
this is so much easier than the other lesson videos you do, where you're talking and going through this section and this section. You do it over.
But in reality,
you just learn it and just come in and shoot and play. And you don't have to do makeup or anything. You just come in and just play.
It was actually.
Well, I was lucky because I was given one of the ones I did was the slide to Stay With Me by the Faces.
Oh wow!
So I just thought.
I mean, they were drunk when they did it.
The looser and sloppier I am, the more authentic I am. This is my favorite of them all.
It's a great song, though.
Because another one, I also did the slide for My Sweet Lord.
Oh, okay.
And, I've got to play in harmony with the other one.
Yeah.
That's a little exacting. But Stay With Me by the Faces?
Yeah.
Tune to an open E, just go at it like Animal from the Muppets.
And I think Ozzy was our QC, and he was unflinchingly rigid, shall we say.
He's great.
Yeah.
What a great teacher Ozzy would be, man.
Yeah.
Or it is, I'm sure. But,
yeah.
But I'm just like, he's such a mellow personality.
His heart rate doesn't get above 47.
He's great, man. He's
it's
just
like, there may be some slight inaccuracies in there.
Yeah, exactly. Now we had him as a guest on our episode about minor 7 chords, which felt right because he's like a minor 7 kind of guy. I think he's like a human minor 7 chord. Hi, RZ. Yay.
Yeah.
So what else? So here's something that I don't know if a lot of people know about string gauges. I think we're all mostly like 10s. A lot maybe 10s, a lot of 9s out there. I'm an 11.
I could do 11s on that guitar. It's really
maybe, yeah. A lot has to do with like scale. And
so the shorter the scale, the
you can get away with a little more.
Yeah.
But on Dwight's electrics, he plays an Epiphone Casino. But even on his tellies that we have, he has a bunch of guitars. He has 12 to 52s. So the high E is a 12. It's a wound G.
That's standard. Oh, wound G is not standard.
Right.
12.
So it's a particularly heavy gauge by today's standards. But that is what, on Fender guitars especially, when you got a Fender guitar out of Leo's original factory, that's what was on them.
Yeah.
That was the standard gauge. They were not flat wounds. They were round wounds. But it had a wound G, and the high E string was a 12. That was just the standard. And then guys realized they wanted to do cooler stuff. You really couldn't bend much at all
with those cables
with those particularly heavy strings. So they were taking banjo strings.
Yeah.
And I was talking to an older guy who was telling me about this. But a set of 5-string banjo sets, 2 of the strings it doubles. So the high string and then the fifth one is
the lightest of all of them. Yeah.
Right. So, but they're doubles of each other. They're essentially. So those are 10s.
Yeah.
So guys were taking banjo strings, and this is James Burton's move.
Putting them on the.
Yeah, and he was putting that and then moving every other string over.
Yeah.
So they would get lighter and lighter and lighter, and that is why 10s are now kind of the standard on a guitar.
Yeah.
It's because of banjo strings. Huh. Anyway, that was kind of low.
So
Ozzy has office hours tomorrow.
Oh,
Thank you, John.
You guys should hit it.
For those of you who are still in the Fender Facebook community, I know a lot of you still are. Keep it going. But tell Ozzy, I have to fly to somewhere, Chicago or something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to be out of town tomorrow. But so this is a guitaristic riff. We were talking about guitar.
Good point.
Like, so this is actually when people like pre-19, I don't know, 59 probably. pre maybe roll over Beethoven or not roll over or
mid 50s. That's
mid 50s. Yeah. So pre that time, guitar riffs were thought as guitar's a strumming instrument or a plucking
It was a
instrument.
chordal, yeah. In Western music, it was like you're just chunking chords.
And
yeah.
so this is why this whole idea of this didn't really make sense.
We weren't there yet.
Well, also guitars didn't ring out loud enough to really get a lot of traction that way, unless you had an orchestra.
Oh God! Oh,
yeah.
By the way, and you'll see in the document in the raw footage, the documentary in the third act of Back to the Future, you'll know what Dylan's talking about.
Yeah. Oh, why? What happens?
Remember, he goes crazy, and then he says, "Your kid, this is a little heavy for you now, but your kids are going to love it."
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That really happened.
He just like
exactly.
Yeah.
They weren't ready for it.
I mean, we didn't talk about Van Halen, but I would say Van Halen is, for me, the demarcator of where riffs became really complicated.
Well, in terms of mainstream,
yes,
like we were hearing them on broadcast radio, so it wasn't like a King Crimson album or something where you really.
Those were complicated, sure.
No, they were, but they weren't on they weren't on top 40 rate. They weren't like massive hits.
Right. Yeah, and they weren't necessarily they weren't as accessible to the ear of the common person.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And they also probably weren't as repetitive as some of these riffs were. Like these had like a more commercial nature to them in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also not, a lot of Ozzy's early stuff wasn't really diatonic. It was just kind of, this is just.
Wait, Van Halen or Ozzy?
I'm sorry, Van Halen.
Okay.
So a lot of Van Halen's
out, so
early
that
stuff.
heed actually simply playing a fretboard pattern. He's
Yeah,
not
just
concerned whether, wow, I hope this fits over this A power chord.
And it's fast enough that you can't tell
How far out it's going.
it's really not in any key because guitar doesn't work like that. You can't just play a pattern because of the tuning differences. Yeah. And so, but that's how a lot of his songs are. If you think about it, there's a shape, and then he's moving the shape around.
Marilee uses House of the Rising Sun as her warm up.
It's not a bad one, Marilee. Yeah, the raking pattern to do it really well can be tricky. I think it's so important. Anyways, I'm at the chorus now.
And it's because that's a song that had been around for. It's a traditional arranged by.
Yeah,
House of the Rising Sun.
Right.
And that band, sometimes
who's the original band of that? Because they didn't write that, right?
Well, no, that's just it. There's no such thing. So the Animals, they pretty much got it from Dylan's version on his first album. Dylan does it. Dylan's first album is essentially all covers,
right?
And Dylan got it from the folk singers and blues singers have been singing it now.
So it's anonymous.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's green sleeves.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But Dylan does make a significant move in the chord structure. It had traditionally been a song with a. It had the bass line is moving down.
Just down in canon fashion.
In canon fashion.
Yes, indubitably.
Dylan has this little quirky thing where he doesn't emphasize that downward motion of the bass, and he really. And he's doing it more like a 12-bar blues, but the Animals picked up on this, and I know it's been played to death, but the Animals, that's a live, that's
really
just
good.
them
I know,
set up.
you can tell
The way they're arranged on stage normally. It is such an intense performance.
Yeah.
Those guys with Alan Price's organ solo, everything, it's all one. It is so incredible the way that record starts and how hard they take it.
Yeah.
And then for it to just like come down and end at the way it's an extraordinary record.
Yeah. You can tell they would have been a great concert.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That must have been intense, right?
Yeah.
The ride cymbal, the way it's recorded, it's just an astonishing piece. So,
and the organ player has great time on that. All the time play he's doing.
So good. Yeah. So good. That they just really come together. And for Eric Burden's voice, when he just goes up that octave that first time, you go, get the seatbelts on, kids.
Yeah.
Hold on. Pretty heavy stuff. Second riff, Michael Stearns, was She's So Heavy by the Beatles. Oh, okay.
Wow,
Well,
you
that's
really got into the B-sides.
It's a nice A. Now, that's a good example, though, of something like a riff. So that's an A minor.
Yeah.
A minor
that's
blues
a
thing
great
that
one.
John's. And he's just playing the melody song. And then we go to the 4 chord, play all of it the same way.
Yeah, right.
Now that's kind of modal in a way because now we're not adhering to the scale of A minor.
No.
We're actually just moving this whole thing over to the 4 chord, and because of what we're. And then we go up to the E9
That tone's
thing.
not that far off, too.
Yeah. Well, he was on a casino on that one.
Yeah.
Playing as a casino into a Fender Twin, I think. Helter Skelter, first metal song. We could make a case, maybe.
Which version?
Well, I'm sure he's talking about the Beatles version on the White Album, but
Not the
was it the
Charles
first
Manson
metal
version.
song?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't he claim that he wrote that song, right? And that,
No, he claimed that was all of the White Album.
Yeah.
There were secret messages that the Beatles were sending about sending to him.
Okay.
Regarding a future racial war, apocalyptic thing, but it turned out he just had one of his speakers was wired out of phase.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When they did the remasters in the 80s, it's a Dennis Miller joke.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he misinterpreted that. No, Helter Skelter, I think the thing was that Pete Townsend had been bragging that The Who had made the loudest record, and I think he was talking about I Can See for Miles, which is a pretty cacophonous record. And then and Paul saw that as a bit of a challenge and says, we're going to have to make the loudest record. So that's why things are recorded in the red. It's a pretty hectic.
I think they were missing the part that makes it actually loud, though, which is not necessarily how loud you played. Yeah. It's
it's just, we're just going to scream. And Helter Skelter was a playground, a slide. It's a playground, piece of playground equipment.
Oh, is it really?
That's where you go.
Is that like German?
Go back to and then you go back up and you do it.
It's got to be German, right?
No. Well, the term feels like it is.
Helter Skelter. Yeah, it feels.
Seems
Austrian, maybe?
It sounds like a Viking thing.
Oh.
Brian May has a house lesson on YouTube, oldest American folk song. Oh, interesting. Brian May talks about it. Okay, there you go. Look up Brian May, House of the Rising Sun, and maybe Brian May kind of gives a bunch of history on this one. Mine was just from various readings.
You know what's so cool about the internet right now is there's all this footage of like Queen recording sessions out there.
Oh, really?
That I've been just stumbling on.
I'm being a dad right now. I'm checking on my...
And so there's like all this footage of them in the studio recording, which, I mean, I don't know. You guys tell me. In some senses, I really preferred not knowing about the people that I was worshiping, the artists. Like, and in other senses, I do like knowing about it, but it does take away some of the mystique.
Okay, I think this is a question of time. I think it was best when the records first came out, and we can only talk about our own experience here.
Sure.
That's this is how it was. We had no options. So we got our favorite records. We loved them. And yes, how are they doing that? That was why they were our heroes.
Yeah,
we didn't know how they flew. We didn't know how they levitated or moved objects with their minds. So it was earned to us. And then we set ourselves upon the challenge of
trying to figure it out.
I'm going to try and figure this out. And that's how we got good, basically.
Yeah.
Now, it is nice now that I'm so much older. I kind of like being able to get the answers now. I don't mind it, but I don't know if if an album came out right now that I really, really loved, I don't know that I want to see the behind the scenes studio footage at the same time as when it came out.
No, I don't think I would.
I'd like to have my own relationship with the album. Give me some time. It's kind of like hearing the outtakes or hearing the alternate versions of things. I was like, give that like a 25-year moratorium.
I have narratives. So albums back then.
Narratives. There you go. That's right.
We
used
to listen to these albums till the odometer turned over a couple of times. So it was like, you knew the stuff that you listened to really well back then. And you would make your own narratives up in your heads about it.
Over and over.
And you'd return to that place every time you heard it. And you still do now when you listen to those old songs.
Jim, is it true? He's asking, is it true heavy metal coined by Steppenwolf in the lyrics of Born to Be Wild? That's the first time we hear it in a song. They got the phrase from a William Burroughs novel. So, that's the first time heavy metal comes into the rock parlance, heavy metal thunder, and they're referring to the sound of motorcycles essentially.
Right.
But and Burroughs wasn't, but there you are. That's how we get that. Should we start wrapping up here? We taking enough of these people's time. Are we even still live?
We're still live.
Okay. I don't know. All right, guys. If anybody lives in the Los Angeles area, this is my bed, come to Harvard and Stone in Hollywood next week. I'm hosting a night of music, as I do once a month there. And just follow me on the socials to find out where that's happening.
What day is it?
It's next Wednesday, the 26th.
A week from today.
Yeah, a week from today. Starts around 9 o'clock. There's an opener, and then my band takes over, and we have guests come up and sing a bunch of songs. One of my guests, who's been a guest before, her name's Allie Angel. She's a fantastic singer. And on the way here, I heard her on the radio on 88.5. I heard this great voice on a great tune, and I was like, wow, who is this? I look, I see the name. That's my buddy Allie. So way to go, Allie. So thank you for hanging out. Thank you for sharing your riff stories. Totally cool. I was afraid that when I met an idol that they would turn out to be I guarantee Neil Schoen would be very, very pleasant. Very, very sweet guy.
Yeah,
he's been around in the business for over 50 years now, and no one has a bad word to say about the guy. So you'd be fine.
I think all those stories about people being dicks are probably not accurate most of the time.
I mean, I'm sure it happens on occasion.
Yeah,
but I think it's disproportionately.
And people are using anecdotal situations and blowing them out of proportion. Although, Buddy Rich, I've heard, is not a very nice fella.
Here's the story. So Buddy Rich, jazz drummer.
There's
a famous audio tape of him screaming at the band on the bus.
Yeah.
Now the reason there's
should
an
have
audio
frished them for microcassettes.
The reason there's an audio tape of it is because he did it so regularly that one of the band members just had a tape recorder ready.
It's
a real tirade. Now,
it's nasty too.
It's awful. So the story is, and then Buddy Rich passes away in April of '87, if I remember. And April 2nd, 1987, Buddy Rich passes off. Don't ask why I know that. So someone who used to play in Buddy's band calls Buddy's house, and Buddy's widow answers. And, oh no, Marilee did have a bet. Oh, I'm sorry, Marilee. Well, I'm sure he's not drunk and rude now, so give it a second. I'm sorry, Marilee. Anyway, someone calls Buddy Rich's house. Buddy's widow answers. And the guy asks for Buddy Rich, and she says, I'm sorry, Buddy passed away a few weeks ago. And the guy says, oh, I'm sorry. Hangs up. About a week later, he calls the house again. He asks for Buddy Rich. The widow says, I'm sorry, but Buddy's passed away. Did you not call earlier? He goes, oh, I'm sorry. He calls a third time. Hi, is Buddy there? He says, I know I've spoken to you already. I've told you, Buddy has passed away. Why do you keep calling? And the guy says, I know, I just like hearing it. Okay, so with that happy note, we're gonna get out of here, and hopefully I'll see
probably
some of
under
you.
a lot of pressure, you guys.
If you're coming to the shows in Milwaukee and Indiana, and I think I'm in Duluth, Minnesota this weekend. Hey, I've got to pack some warm stuff.
Duluth is gonna be chilly right
Probably
now.
A little chilly there in Duluth.
Duluth is a mining town, formerly mining town near Hibbing, Minnesota.
Up in the iron ore and the iron belt.
Have you made it to Gillette, Wyoming yet on tour?
No.
Oh, well, you have.
I haven't lived. Huh?
Yeah.
All right. So I got to pack some scarves. So, but if you see us this weekend, me on the road, to say a hot wave or do something, I don't know. And then we should see you next weekend here. I think.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
More riffs. All right, guys. We'll see you around. Do I hit a button or what do I do?
Hit still.
Okay. So easy. I don't know why people don't do it more often. What is it?
What was it?
The riffing is so easy. I don't know why people